Welcome to the Unlist. Today we are discussing Gentle Fluidity, released by Maison Francis Kurkdjian in 2019. However, we are not discussing one fragrance. We are discussing two fragrances, in fact. Two fragrances that share the same name, but have different colors and different color caps. But otherwise, they are both considered Gentle Fluidity by Maison Francis Kurkdjian. Officially, they have the same name. They are both Gentle Fluidity. But practically speaking, one is the silver one is the gold one. And when you first buy these, at least the original boxes, I don't know about nowadays, but the original boxes, the little square boxes they used to come in before they got the big packaging, the little boxes would say silver edition or gold edition on the bottom. I don't know about now, like I said, but that's how they originally came, and so it was. And yeah, that was a very squeaky cap there, wasn't it? You guys probably heard that. It went, eh. So the thing that's always fascinated me about these two is just how much controversy you can stir up by releasing two of something and then not defining their relationship, not defining the rules of the game, just putting out a Gentle Fluidity and a Gentle Fluidity, and then that's it. Let God sort them out, as they say. You'd think people with half a brain would take it for face value and say, oh, look, there's two of this fragrance, and they look different and they smell different. Maybe it's just some kind of gimmick of, hey, we've got a gold one and a silver one. We want you to decide what they are for yourself. Do they have a relationship with each other? Are they entirely unrelated? Is one of them really for men? Is one really for women? Or are neither of them neither nor? None of the above. They just exist in whatever way you deem it for them to exist. It's literally like a social experiment with these two fragrances. And you think, some people will be like, that's clever. They're trying to put the ball into my court and make me figure out what they are, right? But no. There are some folks who are so used to the rules. They are so used to, okay, one must be daytime, one must be nighttime. Like with the Grand Soir and Petit Matin pair, right? Or one must be for him, one must be for her. Whatever the case may be, they're so used to having it spelled out for them. They're so used to having rules that they get really angry. And they begin to read things between the lines that are probably not there. Especially when you're talking about a luxury, and I hate saying that, I've made a video about it, but luxury fragrance brand like MFK, which exists in a plane that is far above and beyond the usual socioeconomic, sociopolitical turmoil and strife that tends to create all these arguments. The whole, non-gendered spaces or non-gendered, non-binary bathrooms or whatever, or the whole, we have to have everything defined along a certain orthodoxy because that's the level we exist at. So you put out a product that's two, and both are undefined quantities with undefined qualities, and you're like, okay, you guys figure it out. That just sends some people into an absolute spiral. And yeah, the claws come out and people get ugly. They insinuate that there's some kind of political agenda with the fragrances, or there's some kind of social agenda that they're pushing something, that they're woke or they're not woke, because there's two of them when there only has to be one. Like they're forcing a binary on people. Well, one of them has to be male. One of them has to be nighttime. One of them must be the opposite of the other. They must be two halves of a coin. They must be yin and yang because there's two of them. That's the way it works. That's the way diadems work. That's the way diametric opposition is. Let me break out my philosophy 101 and go at it. And I'm like, no. Maybe it's just two versions of the same fragrance because fuck you, that's why. Really, that's it. Because fuck you. Because I don't care. Because I am some rich French guy, perfumer that works for a multi-billion-dollar corporation that wears white suits and white pants, lives in a white house with white walls. Everything looks like the freaking Matrix, or Aeon Flux or some other dystopian nightmare where it's all bleached white and clean and perfect and angelic. And I eat caviar and drink champagne and, ride around in a Rolls Royce all day. I've got not a care in the world. So I just don't care about your social norms. I don't care about your gender values. I don't care about any of that stuff because I'm up here in my ivory tower. I'm up here in my crystal castle. I am just unaffected by all of it. The world could end tomorrow and I'd be fine because that's where I am. And thus, I can make 2 perfumes that exist with no terms. Not no uncertain terms, but no terms. It's just Gentle Fluidity and Gentle Fluidity. That's it. That's it. So, and to take it a step further, right? It gets even more silly because to take it a step further, both have the same materials in them. Right? It's a real social experiment now. It's like a big old, mind screw here because you have the same materials in both bottles. Those materials, by the way, are juniper, coriander, nutmeg, white musks, amber, woods, and a bunch of other undisclosed chemicals, I'm sure. Now, it could be true that they have different materials and they're lying, right? Because when have perfume brands ever been honest about anything? Oh, it comes from the holy water of the river Ganges, or it comes from the Himalayan mountains, and we crawled down the mountain on ropes of silk, and we fought dragons to deliver you this fragrance. When have these brands ever told the truth? They don't. They typically don't. So you may want to take it with a grain of salt that they have the same materials. However, knowing what I know about Maison Francis Kurkdjian and the perfumer himself, Francis Kurkdjian, love him or hate him, he's a very intelligent person. And even if he is disaffected and completely disassociated with the human condition, he is nothing if not creative. Nothing if not creative. He may not be out there doing Mother Teresa, okay? But he is nothing if not creative. So, you won't see his face on a UNICEF ad anytime soon. But he is a creative person. So, he would have no reason to lie about that. To say that both fragrances have the same materials when they don't, right? That would only be a discredit to him, honestly, at that point. Because if there's anything about him, it's he likes a challenge, okay? He may be past the point where he makes perfume as art. Those days are behind him, because if you've listened to his interviews and you've watched videos with him, he is entirely disenchanted, disenfranchised with the entire creative process of perfume as art. And you can blame that on the fact that every fragrance he ever made that was artistic in his opinion got discontinued. So all of his favorite fragrances he ever made, the stuff he loved making, all got discontinued for not selling well. So he basically got browbeaten and punished and punished and browbeaten over and over and over again every time he made something that he enjoyed, because nobody bought it. It didn't sell. He got spirit crushed, okay? He got his soul broken by the industry. So now he just doesn't care. He makes the fragrance because the client says so. In this case, the client is LVMH, the people that own his brand, own his house. He is also house perfumer for Dior, something he said he would never do. He said he would never become house perfumer because becoming house perfumer is equal to giving up. It's retirement, basically. So by going back on that and becoming house perfumer, he's effectively telling the world he's done. He's done. I don't care. I'm done. I did the one thing I said I would never do, and that's become house perfumer for Dior because I don't care. I'm done. So when these came out in 2019, he wasn't there yet. Wasn't quite there yet. 2019, MFK was owned by LVMH, but all of their fragrances were still available. The Absolute pour le soir, Absolute pour le matin, the Cologne pour le soir, Cologne pour le matin, okay? All the different aquas, the A-Palm line, the Lumiere Noir line, all that stuff was still out there. Ciel de Gomme was still out there, okay? And BR540, even though it was a few years old by 2019, hadn't become this massive cultural phenomenon. It takes a couple years for these things to really build steam. Aventus wasn't immediately a smash in 2010. It took 4 or 5 years. By 2015, 16, 17, it was finally everywhere a big deal. But these things build, especially at the price point. These fragrances sell the price point. They're not flying off the shelves on day one. Not when you have a $300 price tag on a 70 ml bottle with $300 price tag. Not flying off the shelf, okay? Not right away. So he was still being creative. He was still being thoughtful. He wasn't shackled to the desk at Dior, okay? Not yet. Now, definitely the case. Definitely the case now, but not yet. So that really leads me to, well, first of all, for someone like me who's always throwing dirt on luxury brands, why do I have these, right? Well, let's be honest here, guys. I'm a sucker for a good deal. And the gray market gives me access to a lot of things I can otherwise never afford. Some brands don't turn up in the gray market. Clive Christian, Roger Dove are very good at keeping their stuff out of the gray market. Chanel's the same way. But MFKs turn up in the gray market quite a lot. So do Parfum de Marly fragrances. So do Creeds. So I don't have to pay $300 for a bottle of Gentle Fluidity, silver or gold. I can pay an undisclosed amount that is less than half that. I won't say how much, and I won't say from where, but less than half that. So for the price of a typical designer fragrance that you can buy at a counter right now, I got both of these. And that's fair. I can afford that. I can do that. I see that as a good value proposition for me personally. So I took these home. I actually have quite a few of MFK fragrances, including those discontinued ones like A-Palm and Lumiere Noir, because I bought those when they were still being made and they were still easy to find in the gray market. So there you go. Now, second of all, what do I think of these? Well, aside from the whole jiggery-pokery over the whole gender thing and all that stuff, which I think is a non-issue. In fact, I actually kind of commend making two fragrances that are so undefined. You could have made one unisex fragrance like Calvin Klein does with CK1, 2, 3, all, B, whatever, right? CK everyone again, whatever you want to call the newest one. You could have just made one and be done with it. But you made two. And you professed them having the same materials in different quantities and gave them the same name, and then refused to dictate terms beyond that. So you force people to compare and contrast. You force people to decide if they have a relationship or they don't, whether they are opposites or not, or whether they are just two shades of the same color, in effect, right? So I think that's cool, because that allows someone who is transitioning genders, perhaps, that allows someone who is perhaps non-binary in their identity or otherwise wants to exist on their own terms rather than have their terms dictated to them by someone else, whether it's through an orthodoxy of society or law, religion, any other stuff, okay? They can basically just take these and say, I like one, I like both, okay? I started at one point, ended up at the other, whatever. It's anyone's game. You roll the dice. It lands wherever it lands. That's how it is. I think that is kind of cool, personally. As for the smell, well, as I stated, they both have juniper, they both have vanilla, they both have coriander, they both have nutmeg, some white musks, amber and woods. Okay, so how does that really relate? Well, the silver one, which is, honestly, the silver one is the one that I think is going to say, at least in the fragrance community, is more popular with guys. Doesn't mean it's masculine. I'm not calling it masculine. I'm just saying amongst guys in the online fragrance community, Fragrantica, Facebook groups, etc., guys tend to like the silver one more. And the reason is the juniper is more prominent in this one. It is fresher. It is cleaner. The amber and the woods play a bigger role here. And thus, you get a fragrance that, even though it is not a clone of Aventus, has a very similar sort of fresh, dry style. Doesn't have the fruit. There's no pineapple. There's no apple here, okay? Doesn't have the birch. There's no smoke in this fragrance. But because of the juniper, because of the amber woods, because of the vanilla, very slight, mind you, slight amount of vanilla, it presents itself as a good alternative. You know, a Pepsi if Aventus were to be Coke. So if you want a fresh, clean, white shirt fragrance that is higher end, smells more refined, arguably smells more expensive, although not really. It's all chemicals, right? But arguably smells a little more higher class. But you don't want to smell like everyone else's Aventus clone. You don't want to smell like Sauvage, correct? So you can buy this, and you will stand both with the group. You'll be one of the boys, okay? But you'll stand just a little over here. You'll stand apart. You'll be included, but you'll stand apart. So, perfect balance of a little bit individualistic, but still conforming to the expectation, right? Now, the other one, the gold one, again, not saying it's feminine, but I think from what I've seen on forums, in reviews, Facebook groups again, women tend to appreciate this one a little more. And the reason is much heavier on vanilla. Okay. The amber takes precedent over the woody notes. So of the amber wood pairing, it's more amber than wood. So you get a very sparkling, ambery vanilla. The juniper is lower, but the juniper adds a sparkle to the vanilla, to the amber. Meanwhile, the spices, the coriander, the nutmeg are also a bit richer, a bit rounder, a bit more noticeable in this fragrance than they are in the silver one. So it has a sweeter, fluffier, sparkly, more romantic, bit more demure, sexier feel to it. And that is going to, generally speaking, bring over the kind of person who likes Grand Soir, who likes Baccarat Rouge 540, and that tends to be more of a feminine-oriented, if not female, feminine-oriented audience. Now, the reality of the matter is, in terms of the general public, I feel like both sell equally as well to everyone. I've not really seen any reports saying that gold sells better than silver, silver sells better than gold, gold is better with women, silver is better with men. I can merely reflect what I see on the internet, what people say, what comes out of this. And for the most part, it seems like you are less likely to find a guy wearing the gold one, and you are less likely to find a lady wearing the silver one. Now, I like them both. I own them both. And I honestly like the gold one a little more. And the reason why I like the gold one a little more is I do like a nice amber, and I do like a nice vanilla. But most vanilla fragrances are very cloying. Most amber fragrances are very gummy, very sticky, very sweet. So if you can create a vanilla amber combo that has a certain sparkle to it, feels lighter, the vanilla is more floral and less candy-like, less sticky sweet. The amber is not as gummy. The amber feels more like a genuine amber accord from a Middle Eastern fragrance. Doesn't feel like amber in quotations. You can pull that off and then make it as polished and rounded and smooth as Francis Kurkdjian tends to do. You're going to get a winner. And for me, Grand Soir is great, but Grand Soir pushes a little too far into that gummy range for me. And a lot of other vanilla fragrances are just too thick, too cloying. They smell too much like baked goods. They smell too much like candy, like a milkshake. And I don't want to smell like a milkshake, all right? I just don't. I don't want to smell like a McFlurry. No thanks. So for that reason, I kind of appreciate the gold a little more. But I do admit that the gold is harder to wear outside of cold wintertime, nighttime, going out to a club or something, or a bar. The gold is much harder to wear in a casual setting, in a work setting, because of how rich and sweet it is. So there again, it becomes a game where it's like, I like the gold more, but I think I reach for the silver. Although my current wares are in favor of the gold, the silver is catching up and probably going to surpass, just because the silver to me feels a little more easy to wear. But I appreciate the gold more. It's just, like I said about your favorite fragrances and how much you wear them being a real indicator, I'd be kind of telling on myself and lying if I said that I liked the gold more than the silver, because I reach for the silver more. It's just, I think the gold has a more unique place in my collection in terms of what it does and the value it represents. There you guys have it. Gentle Fluidity, the silver version and the gold version. Tell me in the comment section what you think. Do you think there's some kind of hidden agenda to these, or do you think it was just a weird social experiment, or just, another frivolity of the extremely wealthy, just doing things that rich folks do, and like I said, letting every one of us out there in plebeian land, let us just sort out our feelings independently, right? So to me, it just doesn't feel like this fragrance line deserved that controversy it got. But at the same time, that controversy probably helped a lot of people discover this brand and help them discover not just these fragrances, but other MFK fragrances that are honestly really worth checking out, like Masculine Pluriel, like the L'Homme à la Rose, like all of the various aqua fragrances that are really good. Someone may have not discovered those if not for all the ruckus that was created around this Gentle Fluidity range when it first dropped in 2019. So controversy is good at one thing, and that's getting people's attention, right? Getting people to look at something like a train wreck, okay? Can't take your eyes away from it even if you don't want to look at it. And that's, no publicity is bad publicity in that regard. So give me your thoughts below. Thanks for watching.